Story 1. Schindler's Gift. How Robin Saved Actors from Darkness. On the set of the film Schindler's List, there was a silence oppressive as ashes after a fire. The entire cast wore strict, faded 1940s costumes. Long hours of scenes in concentration camps, wet streets of Krakow, makeup with dark circles under the eyes. It wasn't acting. It was almost a living reconstruction of horror. Even between takes, the actors whispered or remained silent. Director Steven Spielberg was filming the hardest movie of his life. He understood that the actors were exhausted, emotionally burned out, especially Liam Neeson and Ben Kingsley. Every day they transformed into heroes whose lives were filled with pain, fear, and moral dilemmas. People began to withdraw into themselves. Then Spielberg came up with something unusual. He called Robin Williams. "Robin," he said, "I need you. Not for the movie. For real." And from that day on, once a week, a phone would ring on set, and the actors would drop everything to listen. To stand up. Robin didn't ask what to say. He just started improvising, as if in front of him were not tired actors in Holocaust victim costumes, but an audience in a New York comedy club. He impersonated German officers who couldn't find boots of the right size, made parodies of the film's own actors, imitated an orchestra conductor made up of cats. Everything was spontaneous, from the heart, on a whim. 15 minutes of light, jokes, and human warmth, so desperately missing on the dark set. And then the shadows on their faces disappeared. People laughed until they cried. Some crouched down laughing right in their concentration camp prisoner costumes. Robin joked until he heard them breathing deeply again. Then he hung up and disappeared until the next week. He didn't ask for money. He wasn't credited. He simply helped people stay alive while they plunged into the hell of the past for the sake of art. Later, Spielberg said, "Robin was our breath of fresh air. Without him, we wouldn't have survived this shoot. He did what he does best, brought back the soul where it was almost lost." Story 2. Contract with Conscience. How Robin Williams hired the homeless Hollywood loves to shine. Actor contracts often include clauses about personal chefs, designer trailers, white carpets in the dressing room, and mineral water with a specific pH. But Robin Williams had one clause no other contract had. This clause was about the homeless. When producers first saw it, they thought it was a mistake. What does it mean, hire homeless people for support tasks on set? "It's simple," Robin said. "There are people without homes, but with hands, brains, and a desire to work. Give them a chance, even if it's just cleaning up after shoots or carrying cables." This wasn't charity for publicity. Robin never spoke about it publicly. It was only discovered years later, from crew members, cleaners, interns, lighting assistants, costume designers. People he once called the unseen people without whom nothing would have worked. Here's how it worked. When the studio signed a contract with him to appear in a film, whether Mrs. Doubtfire, Jumanji, or 1 Hour Photo, it included a special condition. At least 10% of the support staff had to be people in difficult life situations. He found them himself. Through charities, shelters, soup kitchens. He didn't just give them jobs. He talked to each one personally. One man, Michael J., a former homeless person, later said, "I carried cables on the set of Awakenings. And he'd come up and ask how I was doing, like we graduated film school together. I was nobody, but to him, I was a person." 2 years later, I was working as a lighting technician on TV. It all started with Robin. Nobody knew about this, not even journalists. Robin didn't want to turn kindness into a show. He just helped, because he could. When once asked why he did it, he replied, "If you're in a position to change someone's life and don't do it, then why are you even here?" This was his personal contract with conscience. He didn't demand white limousines, masseurs, or filming only in the mornings. He demanded one thing: human dignity for those usually overlooked. And hundreds of people across America remember how once in their lives, a strange, kind-hearted man with sad eyes and the voice of a cartoon genie appeared and gave them a chance. Story 3. Mrs. Doubtfire for One. How Robin Williams fulfilled a dying child's dream. This is not a story told at premieres. No magazine published it during Robin's lifetime. There were no cameras, no flashes, no red carpets. Just one boy, a hospital room, and a dream. His name was Cody. He was 10 years old. He was battling an aggressive form of cancer. The illness was progressing. Days were counted not in weeks, but in hours. His parents contacted the Make-A-Wish Foundation. When the boy was asked what he wanted, he whispered, "I want to meet Mrs. Doubtfire," not the actor, not Williams, but the strange, funny, warm nanny with an accent and a pie on her face. To him, she was not just a character. She was comfort, hope, childhood slipping away. The day after the call, Robin flew in. No photographers, no publicity, no promotion. He arrived at the hospital dressed fully as Mrs. Doubtfire. Makeup, dress, wig, glasses, accent, everything. He entered the room and said, "Oh dear, and what are you doing here, my little mister? The doctor said you forgot how to laugh. Come on, move over. Grandma's here to save the day." The boy laughed for the first time in weeks. They played for almost an hour. Robin sang songs, recited poems, drew with Cody, told silly stories about a grandson who ate too much peas. Even the doctors stood by the door holding back tears. The room was filled with pure, sincere happiness, almost forgotten among the smell of medicine and machines. When the visit ended, Robin approached the parents, took off the wig, and with barely restrained tears said, "Thank you for letting me be part of his life. He gave me more than I gave him." Cody died a few days later, but in the last photos he was smiling. He left with someone he considered a hero, not a superhero, not a wizard, but a nanny who came just for him. And you know what's amazing? The world only learned about this story after Robin Williams' death. Cody's family published it as a thank you. They wrote, "He didn't come as a celebrity. He came as a person. He gave our son childhood in the very last moments of his life. That was his magic. He didn't pretend to be kind. He was kind, and that's more than cinema." Story 4, Party on the Side, how Robin Williams held a concert for the homeless, and the neighbors stopped complaining. This happened in Tiburon, north of San Francisco, where Robin Williams lived in his last years. A beautiful house overlooking the bay, greenery, spaciousness, and strange sounds from the basement. At first, the neighbors thought it was a party. In the evenings, live jazz music came from Williams Terrace, not from the radio. Someone's saxophone hit off notes, someone clapped hands, someone laughed, mixed with the smell of food, clinking cups, and Robin's piercing laughter. The next morning, an elderly couple politely knocked on the door. "Excuse me, mister." "Williams. Our children were sleeping. We would appreciate it if next time," but Robin didn't make excuses. He invited them inside. Downstairs, in the living room, several folding tables were set up, not glamorous, but cozy. Sitting around them were 10 people, men and women, scruffily dressed, with tired faces and kind eyes. "This is George. He used to play in a street band on Market Street. This is Lila. She worked as a librarian before losing her home. And here's Miguel, the best saxophonist I've ever heard." Robin smiled. "I just thought, if you have a home, why not give someone a chance to be in one, even temporarily?" It turned out he held mini-concerts once a month for homeless people he knew personally, through shelters, churches, social workers. He rented a van, picked them up from the streets, fed them, gave them tea, listened to their stories, and gave them a stage. They sang, played old instruments, joked. Robin himself played harmonica, improvised stand-up on the spot, the kind he usually didn't show on air. Raw, weird, absurdly funny. "Why do you do this?" the neighbors asked, amazed. He shrugged. "Because they have no stage, and I can give them a stage, and warm tea, and a little laughter." Since then, the neighbors stopped complaining. On the contrary, next time they brought pies and coffee. Someone brought a local barber, someone a photographer to take portraits. These evenings became little oases of humanity no one knew about. No filming, no social media posts, no hashtags. Just music, warm light, and Robin's voice. Tonight on stage, a person I'd gladly listen to every day if we lived in a normal world. That was his home concert hall, not for critics, for those no one notices. Story 5, Voice of Freedom. How Robin Williams became Genie and broke free from script, studio, and common sense. When Disney started working on the animated film Aladdin, directors John Musker and Ron Clements dreamed of one thing: We needed a genie who couldn't be predicted. Someone absolutely crazy, and yet with a kind heart. The answer was obvious: Robin Williams. But it was a risk. No one knew how he would fit into the strictly structured animation machine. He was unpredictable, too fast, too loud, too alive. And, of course, he refused to read from the script. 16 hours of pure improvisation. When he came to the recording studio, he had only one question. Can I just try? And it began. 16 hours of recording over 3 days. Robin transformed into Elvis, Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro, CNN announcers, a carpet salesman, a Brooklyn nanny, a senator, a chicken, a cat, a gangster. He changed voices 4 times a second, stood up, ran around the studio, joked with the crew, teased the microphone, sang like Frank Sinatra, then complained he had no talent. The animators couldn't keep up. They literally drew to his voice, discarding original storyboards. Some scenes were rewritten and redrawn from scratch to match the wild flow of his characters. One producer said, "He didn't play the genie. He was the genie. Free, wild, unpredictable, he broke out of the lamp." And out of the script, Disney Scandal Williams agreed to voice Genie for a minimal fee, only $75,000 despite multi-million offers. But on one condition: don't use my name or voice to advertise toys and Happy Meals. "I don't want kids thinking I'm selling them ketchup," Disney promised, and broke that promise. They started using his voice and image in advertising, spreading Genie merchandise worldwide. Robin felt betrayed. He was deeply hurt and publicly refused to participate in the sequel. But, as always, he forgave. Several years later, when the studio leadership changed, the new Disney president came to him with a gift, an original Picasso painting. With apologies, Robin, in his usual way, laughed, accepted the gift, and returned. Because Genie was not just a role, he became part of his heart. You're free, Genie. When Williams passed away in 2014, a wave of mourning swept the world, and Disney's Twitter account appeared an image of Genie with the caption, "Genie, you're free." It was more than a quote from a cartoon. It was a farewell bow, not to an actor, but to a magician who gave voice to freedom, laughter, and to those afraid to be themselves. Story 6. Superman and the Clown. How Robin Williams saved Christopher Reeve after his fall. There was a friendship forged in poverty, laughter, and the struggle for a place in the acting world. Robin Williams and Christopher Reeve met in 1973 when they both enrolled at the prestigious Juilliard School in New York. Robin was loud, wild, like an electric spark. Christopher was reserved, noble, with the face of a classic hero. They were opposites, but quickly became inseparable. He was like my older brother with a serious face, and I was the younger one constantly driving him crazy, Robin said. They dreamed of fame, shared sandwiches, and loneliness. Between classes, Reeve practiced his diction, while Williams jumped around impersonating a monkey with a British accent. They swore that if one of them took off, he wouldn't forget the other. And so it happened. In 1978, Christopher Reeve became Superman. A little later, Robin woke up famous after his role in the TV show Mork and Mindy. The fall, almost 20 years passed. In 1995, Christopher Reeve fell from a horse during a competition. He broke his cervical vertebrae. He was left paralyzed from the neck down, breathing through a tube. Unable to move, barely able to speak. The world saw it as the fall of the real Superman. Christopher himself struggled. He sank into depression. One day he asked his wife, "Let me go. I don't want to live like this. This isn't life." Then Robin appeared. One day, an eccentric Russian doctor with an accent, wearing a surgical mask, gloves, and holding a syringe, entered the room. He approached Reeve and cheerfully said, "I'm going to do a colonoscopy on you. No anesthesia. Very fun. You scream, I listen. Russian method. Smile with horns." Christopher froze at first, then burst out laughing. For the first time since the injury. Robin took off the mask. "Brother, I'm always here, even if I have to play a crazy proctologist." Later, Reeve said, "At that moment I realized, if I can laugh, I can live." Robin gave me the will to live. Not with fame, with laughter, And that was only the beginning. Robin financially supported Reeves' Rehabilitation Foundation, organized events, visited him every year, played with his children, supported his wife Dana, joked in hospitals. He stayed by his side when others started disappearing. They remained friends until the very end. When Reeve died in 2004, Robin spoke at the memorial service. He stepped on stage and was silent for several seconds, then said, "He was my Superman, not because he could fly, but because he lifted everyone who fell." And 10 years later, Robin was gone. In the hospital room where Robin once brought laughter back to his friend, today hangs a plaque. Life is a gift. Laughter is breath. Thank you, Robin. Story 7. The Laughter Technician. How Robin Williams secretly visited veterans in hospitals. He didn't like to talk about it in interviews. Didn't film reports. Didn't invite journalists. He simply dressed as a technician and entered veterans' hospitals. Sometimes as an electrician. Sometimes as a nurse's aide. Sometimes just as the guy who checks the equipment. And after a couple of minutes, patients realized, wait, that's Robin Williams. But he only smiled. It's a secret mission. I'm a laughter saboteur. He started doing this back in the 1980s after filming Good Morning Vietnam, where he played a radio host entertaining soldiers during the war. At first, he just visited military bases with the USO program, troop support. But later he began showing up unannounced in hospitals. One veteran said, "I was unconscious after surgery. I woke up to someone reading me Green Eggs and Ham with a German accent. I thought, hallucination. But it was Robin. He sat next to me like an old friend. Not because I was special, because he believed, if you suffer, you need laughter." He brought everything with him. Board games, useless medical gadgets made from toys, joke certificates. This patient is officially the coolest guy with a catheter. Songs, guitars, bananas, wigs, fake mustaches. He could sit for an hour with a paralyzed soldier, telling stories, joking about politics, playing rock, paper, scissors. With his own hand. He did what others found awkward, but patients later said, with him, the ward disappeared. The pain disappeared. We were people again, not patients. Once he was asked, "Why do you do this secretly?" He replied, "Because if you come for the camera, you didn't come for them." Laughter is personal. It only works one-on-one. Once he entered a ward where a veteran with PTSD lay. No one could talk to him. He had been silent for a week. Robin sat down, said nothing, and started blowing up rubber gloves like balloons until one popped. The veteran looked at him and whispered, "You're crazy." Robin replied, "You just realized? Hold on, it's gonna get worse." And the guy laughed. The veteran later wrote in a letter, "I have a scar, memories, and insomnia, but I also have that meeting. Robin gave me the right to feel again." No one knew about these visits until after Robin Williams' death, when dozens of letters began arriving at his foundation. From soldiers, from nurses, from parents. They all started the same way. "You don't know me, but he knew me, and it changed my life." This was his way of fighting pain, not his own, but others. Quietly, without a show, with tools, jokes, and a heart that never asked for thanks. Story 8. The Bridge. How Robin Williams saved a stranger from suicide with simple laughter. It happened one evening in San Francisco. There was fog, wind, and a man standing on the edge of the Golden Gate Bridge. He was holding the railing, looking down, ready to jump. Passers-by walked by. Someone called 911. Someone looked away, but one passerby, wearing a cap and with an unshaven face, stopped and approached from the side. He didn't shout, "Don't do it." He said, "Sorry, you're about to jump and I don't know how to get out of here. Listen, if you jump first, can I have your GPS?" The man at the railing turned. For a second, suspiciously, then with amazement, and said, "Are you Robin Williams?" Robin smiled. No, I'm often mistaken. I'm actually Danny DeVito in heels." And he started joking, incoherently, as always, about a seagull that insulted him in the harbor, about his hairy arms, about how once he did a headstand in a restaurant and was mistaken for furniture, The guy started laughing. Quietly at first, then louder. And finally, he climbed down from the railing. Later, in the ambulance, he told the paramedics, "I had made up my mind. Everything was ready." But then Robin Williams showed up and started talking like a lunatic. I forgot I was gonna die. I started listening, then laughing, and then living. This story didn't make the newspapers. It became known many years later when the man, now recovered, shared it at an anonymous support group meeting. He didn't know how to thank him because Robin disappeared just as suddenly as he appeared. No cameras, no fame, just a person who understood. If you see someone leaving, catch up. Even if you don't know what to say, say something silly. Say the truth. Say anything. Robin himself struggled with depression. He knew what the edge looked like. That's why he, like no one else, knew how to distract others from it. Sometimes, with just one phrase. "If you jump now, you'll seriously ruin my evening." And I just ordered tacos. Story 9. The Frontline Comic. How Robin Williams became a voice of hope in Iraq. In 2003, at the height of the Iraq War, American military bases were in a state of constant alert. Helicopter roars, heat near 50 degrees Celsius, dust, fear. Many soldiers were exhausted, hadn't slept for 3 days. Letters from home were rare and laughter, almost never. Then one day, a helicopter landed at a base in Baghdad. A man in uniform, baseball cap, glasses, and holding a microphone stepped out. He took a step, looked at the soldiers, and said, "I flew here because your commander said the soldiers laughed too little. Well, I'm here to punish you for that." Smile with horns. It was Robin Williams, the only major celebrity who insisted on being sent to the hottest spot, the USO Tour, a show without a stage or safety. He spent several weeks in Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, and bases in Germany. No luxury conditions. He slept in barracks, ate soldiers' food, wore a bulletproof vest because the shootings were real. During one performance, an air raid alarm went off. Sirens. Everyone dropped to the ground. But Robin didn't stop. He lay on the concrete and said, "Oh, cool. I always dreamed of doing stand-up lying down. Just don't clap. I'll think those are bullets." And he kept telling jokes until the alarm was canceled. One soldier recalled, "He wasn't there for photo shoots. He was there to pull us, even for 10 minutes, out of hell." We laughed, cried, forgot where we were. He gave us a breather. He also brought packages with letters, books, photo albums, and toys from soldiers' families. He read letters aloud, sometimes pretending to be a strict teacher. "Private Thompson, your daughter demands you return before her birthday. Otherwise, she'll replace you with a plush dragon." I wouldn't risk it. His route was long. Over the years, he performed in 13 countries, at 90 bases, in front of more than 100,000 soldiers. Every show, free. Every show with its own improvisation. At one base, he stepped on stage, looked at the audience, and said, "All right, I see. 3 bearded guys, 4 girls, and 1 guy who clearly stole someone else's uniform. Who are you? An Air Force spy?" The crowd burst into laughter. After his death in 2014, the Pentagon issued a rare official statement. "We lost a friend, a brother, a spirit commander. He didn't carry weapons. He carried light, and he knew where to carry it." On one of the walls at a base in Afghanistan, a portrait still stands, Robin Williams in military uniform, with a microphone instead of a gun. Underneath it says, "You gave us 10 minutes of heaven. We will never forget." Story 10. 3 Letters in Silence. How Robin Williams secretly paid for the education of children of 9/11 victims. On September 11, 2001, New York froze. Dust, panic, sirens. In an instant, families of over 3,000 people lost their loved ones. Among them were firefighters, police officers, office workers, drivers, cooks, cleaners. Their children went to school that day and never saw their parents again. The next morning, Robin Williams was silent. He canceled all shootings, interviews, and calls. "What can we do?" he asked his wife. She answered, "You can't save the world, but maybe you can save someone's hope." A week after the tragedy, Robin contacted the FDNY Widows and Children's Benefit Fund, a charity helping families of firefighters and police officers who died saving people in the towers. He asked for the names of children left without a mother or father and secretly paid for their college education. Completely anonymously. No interviews. No plaques. Just send the money, he said. He didn't choose the hardest or the most gifted. He chose 3 random children and fully covered their path from high school to university. Paid not only tuition, but books, housing, transport, food, summer programs. Every year, the children received an envelope from the fund. No signature. Just a short letter. You are not alone. Keep studying. Keep dreaming. The world is better with you in it. One of them, years later, graduated from law school in New York. He learned who had paid for everything only after Robin Williams' death in 2014, when the fund, with his permission, revealed the donor's name. The young lawyer said on the radio, "He wasn't just an actor. He became my guardian angel. I live, study, and work because one person decided I deserved a second chance, without even knowing me." Today, on the grounds of a college in Brooklyn where one of the girls Robin paid for studied, there is a bench with the inscription, "For the one who believed in strangers. Thank you for making our world warmer." Robin Williams passed away in 2014, but what he did in the shadows lives on in lives. In children, veterans, soldiers, patients, a simple woman in a hospital, a boy on a bridge. He didn't just make the world laugh. He lifted it up, without noise, without fame, without demands.